Tonight is going to be a really great show. Our special guest is Jenn Hodgson. Now, Jenn is a psychic medium, past life practitioner, Reiki Master and Teacher, life coach, crystal healing practitioner, shaman, and so much more. Now, I must fully disclose, Jenn is also my wife for the past 19 years. We just celebrated our anniversary 2 days ago, and are hoping for at least another 20. See, Jennifer grew up in a small town here in Indiana, and has always done what she could to help other people. So it's no surprise she's using her gifts as a psychic medium, a Reiki Master Teacher, intuitive life coach, and as a paranormal investigator to help those people in need. She has written the book, The Ups, Downs, and Aha Moments of Your Journey, Connecting Spirit, Mind, and Body, and has also written for the Caretaker magazine. She believes that anyone can create the life they want and shouldn't let others decide for them what their life will be about. She believes everyone has a purpose in life. Finding that passion is something she encourages everyone to do. Today we're going to talk about her second book, Exploring the Unknown, True Accounts from a Paranormal Investigator. This book takes you on her paranormal journey to some of the most interesting investigations she's conducted over the years. You will hear stories, you can see photos in the book, and learn more about some of the United States' most haunted locations. The story is also told from a unique perspective, because remember, Jenn is a psychic medium. Now tonight we'll also be joined by our good friends and fellow paranormal investigators, Shawna and Elvin Potter. We've known them for many years now, and we travel the country investigating some of the most haunted locations. Every year or so we travel just for vacation together. See, Elvin's my right-hand man, and I know Shawna and Jenn mean so much to each other as well. So tonight I invite you to relax, enjoy this podcast, and learn about why Jenn stands out amongst the many mediums with her teaching style and her personality. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Your Life Matters Show. My name is Steve Hodgson, and again, our guest this evening is my lovely wife, Jennifer Hodgson. Jen, thank you for being on our show again this evening.
Sure. You're welcome. Happy to be here.
Now, the reason I say again, if anyone watched our show recently on IPF, Jenn was joining us on our show as one of the caretakers that night. And Jenn has also been a co-host of this show for so long, even though it's my voice we hear all the time. Now, okay, it used to be Real Life Matters Show with Jenn and Steve. Now, Jenn, if you would, tell the people a little about yourself and your abilities and what you did. Well, actually start from when you first learned that you had these abilities.
Well, I can't really say that there was ever a time growing up that I thought of what I did was something of an ability. I thought everybody could do what I did. I thought everybody knew things without being told. I thought people just saw things and heard things. I thought it was just an everyday normal experience. I wasn't ever told any different. Nobody ever said, Jenn, that's your imagination or anything else. So my earliest memory of seeing a spirit would be at the age of 7. And I would see this female spirit on a regular basis in my room. And as a 7-year-old, that was kind of scary. You kind of cover up your head and be like, okay, it'll go away in a minute. So it just kind of progressed from there. And then as time would go on, again, even as an adult, I thought everybody could do what I did. It wouldn't be until we started doing investigations that things kind of changed for me. The very first place that we investigated kind of opened Pandora's box, as I like to say. It actually forced me to look at what I was actually able to do. And from there, I just developed who I am today.
Well, it's funny that you talk about who you are today. You actually teach now. You're actually You give readings.
I
You
do.
set up at shows. You're a Reiki Master. Tell about some of your qualifications.
Some of my qualifications. Well, we're going to be here for a while.
Well, there were too many for me to read in the intro, so so I let you go.
So I am a psychic medium, as we've already talked about that. I am a Reiki master, a Lahochi master, a crystal healer. I do past life regressions. I do past life readings. I do Akashic Records readings, mediumship readings, tarot readings, oracle card readings. Although I don't need the cards are mostly for everyone else, just to have something to look at. I really just use my abilities to do readings. I mean, I don't numerology. I mean, the list can go on and on. I'm a certified herbalist. I deal with aromatherapy. I am a shaman. It's a path that I've been on my entire life. And as my mentor, who's no longer with us, Coyote Chris, always said, Jen, you've been on this path even when you didn't even know that you were on it. And it's something that I just like the mediumship and being a psychic and being a medium, it's part of who I am. It's something I was born with. It's just I don't know where one part ends and the other part starts.
Well, tell them how you got involved in being a paranormal investigator.
So back in 2009, we used to do, Steve and I used to do the podcast, Your Life Matters with Jen and Steve, as he had said. And I found different people to be on the show. I connected with many authors and different groups across the country. And one of the groups that I came in contact with was Indie Ghost Hunters. And so we had them on our show and we hit it off really well. And they said if there was ever a place where they could take us to go and investigate, they would like for us to go with them. And so that actually happened in November of 2009. Our daughter was giving birth to our first grandson, and we were at the hospital. And Steve got a call from Bob and wanted to know if we wanted to go. And while at the hospital, we're standing in the lobby, the waiting area, and the elevator doors open up, and there's nobody there. Other doors were opening up, and there's nobody there. And so we went to this place, and that's we went to the old Blackford County Hospital, which is where everything kind of took place and started for us. And that's really where I did my first investigation.
And I just want to say that the old Blackford County Hospital, if people are wondering, is no longer there. It's been changed. It's been redone now. It's an assisted living facility or an elderly living facility. In the 4 years, 5 years, there is no paranormal activity going on. That seems to have stopped when they really ripped the place apart. So I don't want people to go trying to find this place. It does not have any paranormal activity. Now that's a statement from my lawyers. So we're sure that we don't get in trouble for it. But that's actually a good segue into your book, which is Exploring the Unknown, True Accounts from a Paranormal Investigator. The first chapter, actually, in your book, you talk about the old Hartford City Hospital.
Mhm.
Talk to us a little about the hospital. I'm going to see if I can punch up some pictures while you're talking. So,
Sure. So the hospital itself, I mean, I can't tell my story without talking about this location because it's such a huge part again, of who I am today. And when we first arrived at this location, if you looked at the outside, you would never think that there was anything going on inside the building. It looked just like any other regular hospital. Yes, I mean, the trash needed emptied and, there was some mowing that needed to be done, but you would never think that there was any kind of paranormal activity going on inside the building. When you walk through the doors, that became a different story. Upon walking through, as we were doing our walking tour, the very first hallway that I went down, I had a feeling of dread. And there was some other things that came up too, all pertaining to me, but at the time, I didn't give it much thought. I was just being very open-minded about what I was going to experience, what I was going to see, what what was going to happen, because this was the very first time that I had done an official investigation. And so not only did I have a feeling of dread, or my heart just kind of dropped down into my stomach, but I also connected with, the fact that it was going to happen in 6 months, and there was a small child. That's all the information I was given. So like most other things, I'm just kind of like, okay, whatever, and just go on about my day. So as we walked through the building, there were other things that I noticed. Like there was a refrigerator in one of the rooms, and it had actually been pulled out. Although we wouldn't see that until the next time we had made that loop around. There were other things that happened throughout the night. I would just know where we needed to go. And I didn't second guess it. I didn't think anything of it. We would be upstairs and I'd be like, no, we need to be downstairs in the kitchen. So we would go down into the kitchen, and then there would be things that happen. Sitting in the nurse's station, there was a wooden table, and there was 4 of us sitting on the little ledge in the nurse's station. And there was a ball of light that came up out of the table and then just disappeared. None of us had our flashlights on. Nobody had cameras out. Nobody was doing anything. We were just sitting there, and we all witnessed this at the same time. There were other things that happened. We were all sitting in the hallway, and you would see somebody running down the hallway with a flashlight all the way down and then shooting back up. Now, the owner of this place, and the owner's daughter, as I will still refer to her as, talked about her brother who was killed by a drunk driver. Now, her dad believed that her brother was in this building, and it really wasn't her brother, but whatever was there tried to make them think that it was her brother. And when she was talking about her brother, and when we were all sitting in the hallway at that time, that's when all the activity happened with the flashlight running down. Now, Steve and another investigator, they were down at the other end of the hallway, and they saw a black shadow go down the opposite way at the exact same time that the flashlight was going across. And the photo that Steve has up right now, another investigator, a former investigator, and I were walking around the building because some people needed to go to the bathroom, and there is no running water, no electricity, no nothing on in this building. And so while they were gone, going to the bathroom, getting drinks, whatever it is that they were doing, we were walking around, and I was just snapping pictures, and I snapped this picture. And yes, I mean, with the trees, you could say that it's pareidolia or whatever, with the face there, and then even the other face next to it. I mean, there are a lot of different things. I mean, there's even a third face. But there's one of the faces, and I'm not even going to point out which one. When I showed it to the owner's daughter, we laid a photo up against the other, and they matched completely. So that's kind of what happened with this. We investigated this place several times, and even when we did my ghost story, and we went back to film the B-rolls, we did not get to complete all of the scenes because the camera would just stop working. Oh. There were many things that happened at one point. Even one night when we were investigating, the walls, the floor, and the ceiling was sweating. And I don't mean it was just like sweating a little bit. As the night wore on, there was more and more and more water that gathered in the floor, and it hadn't even rained. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that happened in this place. And then in 2010, when we went back 6 months later, is when my world changed. All the things that I had talked about came true the next day with the death of my cousin. And so it was at that point in time and that moment that I realized that I was different and that I wasn't the same as everybody else.
Tell them about the washing machines.
So Steve and I met the owner's daughter to get to get the keys early. We were waiting for the rest of the group. So we had gone in and we're kind of walking around and stuff. And actually, no, we went to get the keys and then we just did a walkthrough because we were going to come back the following weekend and do an investigation with the other group. And we were just walking around taking pictures. Steve took a picture and then I took a picture, like within seconds of each other. My photo did not have anything in the washer and dryer, but Steve's did. Now, if you hear it on my ghost story, you will hear it as that this was my photo, even though it wasn't, but that's how they make you do it when you're on TV. And it has a silhouette of a nurse. And back in the day, what we found out was the nurses used to stay at the hospital when it was their time, when they were working, however many days they worked for their entire shift. Like if they worked 4 days, they stayed there at the hospital. And then when they were finished with all of their shifts, they would go home. And so at the same time that this happened, we also heard running in the hallway. And so Steve and I went to go see where the running was. And there was nobody in the building. Like you had to have a key to get in the building. There was basically one way in and one way out. The very last time that I shouldn't say the very last time there was something that happened. But when we were doing my ghost story on the 3rd floor, there was a chair that was in the center of the hallway, and that wasn't there before. We had done a walkthrough each and every time because, yes, there are homeless people who could break in through the basement, although I'm not sure why they would want to.
They came in through the roof.
Flooded. Yeah, sometimes they did come in that way, but there was nobody in this building at the time. And when we came back up, there was a chair in the middle of the hallway. And then the very last time that we investigated this location, there was a piece of wood that was on the floor on the third floor. And we didn't see it when we were up there, but on the camera, we could see it start to move, and then it just shot across the floor. And I mean, there's no rhyme, no reason for that. We had walked over that all night long, and it never moved. So it was quite interesting to see all of that. So it looks like we have
to upload for us.
Looks like we have some people watching.
Okay, yeah. I did upload 2 pieces of video if people want to watch. One of them is, one is an audio from the very first time that we actually came on. We were walking down the hallway. Remember me, you, and Jason. And this is actually what it sounded like. The first EVP that was picked up. Okay, I'm going to play that again. It's actually a voice that says, "Look at the camera." And trust me, I had the lowest voice of the 3 of us that was there.
Yeah, Jason and I were walking around and we were closing all of the electrical panel boxes so that nobody would bang their head into them when they walked through. And as we came up to Steve was asking us about those, and we were like, yeah, we had closed those. And then that's when when the audio was gone back over and the video and everything, that's one of the things that was said. The very first time that we investigated there, every time we would go by the kitchen, and there are certain certain people that whatever was in this building just did not really care for. And there was a lot of language that was not very pleasant. And thank you, Kate, for the congratulations. And I do also do general readings. If you want to go to my website, it's jennhodgson.com. You can actually book a reading through there. There's different price points, and either by phone or even in person. So absolutely.
Sorry, I didn't see your actual commenting there as I was trying to get videos up and pictures up for us to watch. So my screen was actually down on that side. Now, I want to show one of the video if I can, with the shadow behind one of our investigators, Joe Winchester. We were all sitting on the third floor, as you said, in that big room. And a shadow went, this ball of light, I should say, went behind Joe. And we actually caught that on camera. And if you watch, you'll actually see the light go behind him. Now, if it was somebody with a flashlight or even a light coming in from one of the windows, it would break, you would see his shadow through it. And this one did not. So here you go.
That's someone breathing loud, or is that growling again?
Did you see that? It actually comes behind his head. I'll show it again.
That's someone breathing loud, or is that growling again?
And in that room, we saw that go completely around the wall. I mean, around the entire room. It was actually a very interesting thing that we had there. So, okay, at this point, I want to bring in, I don't want him sitting off in the background forever here.
I don't think he's going to be able to just yet.
Okay. Okay, so is he going to be another minute? Well, okay, if he's going to be another moment, then I want you to talk. We're going to be talking about some paranormal things, but I want to show a couple of videos um, of things that took place. I'm going to show you the video, and I want you to talk about what had happened during this. We actually.
Okay. So you're talking about when she was pulled into the dresser?
Correct.
Okay. So we were at a location in Indiana, and I was sitting in the kitchen, and because I needed to be able to connect, I wanted to just stay out there and be able to connect to everybody and everything. And Steve and our other investigator, Robin, they went in the bedroom with her, and I was picking up on some things that was connected to her with her uncle. He wasn't the greatest person in the world. He had done a lot of things. He had hurt her a lot. And at the time that I was connecting to that, and they were in there asking some questions, something grabbed a hold of her and pushed her back into the dresser. Now, nobody was near her. It wasn't like she fell back. You could actually see her shirt being tugged on. If you want to show that video again, where they'll see it, where it's pulled back, and she's actually pulled into it. It wasn't that she fell into it or anything else. She was just pulled back into this dresser. I mean, she was totally shocked. And Steve, what was your reaction with Robin's?
Well, we were sitting actually about 2 feet away from her, almost where the camera was showing her. We were sitting on the bed, and she was standing there, and I was watching her very carefully. We were doing an EVP session, and as you said, you were out in the hallway right outside that.
Correct.
And I mean, the video doesn't show it justice. I mean, she literally was slammed into that dresser. I mean, I thought the whole dresser was going to fall because she hit it so hard. And trust me, I've gone back over that video, watched it frame for frame. Now, there's actually even a point where if you look close enough, you can actually see her being pulled mid-waist.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. It wasn't
she was falling backwards, to try to do something. She was actually pulled there. There's no question about it.
Her uncle did not want me or anyone else to connect to him at all. And that's exactly what I was doing. She grew up and lived on a plantation. And there were a lot of things that came up that isn't really something that I would want to talk about on the air. Let's just say there were some things on there that you couldn't even dream up as to what she was saying. and what I was, the information that I was getting, and the information that she confirmed and validated.
It was very.
Yeah, you absolutely can see that she's startled. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. You can see the shirt being pulled. Absolutely. That's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it actually is a good. It's one of those good things that we were able to pick up.
Mhm.
I want to play another video if I could for you, as long as I can find it. It's actually a piece of audio, and it's got a very interesting story to it. But just here we go. Now I'm going to play it again. I want you to listen very carefully to that voice, and the voice says, "Get out of the dog's way."
Now that wasn't me being attacked. Just so you know.
That was me. Thank you very much.
I'm always very well protected. Steve, not so much. So we actually went to do a prelim at someone's house, and they had a pit bull. Now the dog was very friendly. He still went ahead and put him on the leash, and he had him, tied up outside. Now we had walked around outside, and yes, right before we went back toward the house, there's actually a mist that you see rolling across the road, from one side of his house all the way across into the road and out, wherever. And so we come back up, and we're getting ready to. Actually, we had gone in the house, and then we came back out. We were getting ready to leave. And, we were like, just let the dog off the leash. And he's like, are you sure? And we're like, yeah, I mean, the dog was wagging his tail, no big problem. He let the dog off of the leash.
Excuse me, wait a minute. Let's specify something. You said, yeah, let's take the dog off the leash. Not me. Any dog that would stand up and is bigger than I am can stay on a leash.
That dog wasn't taller than you. So he let the dog off. The dog came up to me and was wagging his tail, was really fine. I was petting the dog. And then the dog went over to Steve, and then the dog lunged. And I mean, the owner tackled the dog and put the dog back on the leash. We were like, don't hurt the dog. It's not the dog's fault, because you just knew. I mean, the dog hadn't done anything at all. I mean, he has his kids and everything else, and there was nothing. I mean, the dog was totally fine. And so when we went home, Steve listened to that, and that's when he heard that. And we absolutely got that to the owners, because we didn't want him to think that the dog was vicious or anything else. I mean, it wasn't the dog's fault that it did that. Steve was just in the way for whatever he was trying to get to.
Okay, I'm going to play another one while we're waiting for Elvin and them to come back. They were here a minute ago, but I want you'll know what house it's from when you hear the audio.
Mom.
Yes.
Now,
Absolutely.
for those that are listening, this was there was no one in the room at the time this was recorded, and I'm going to play it again.
Mom.
Go ahead.
We get a lot of names called, and especially mom. And at this house, I mean, there was a lot of activity. Elvin's back now. But
Yeah,
there was a lot of activity. Yes, it was a small child. But again, nobody was in there. There was a lot of things that happened at this house. This is the house where we actually had a string of bells, and we took them and we put them from one side of the door to the other, just to see if anything would happen. And actually, those were tripped. There wasn't anybody in the room, but those were actually tripped. And this house had an interesting connection. The guy has been around paranormal activity his entire life. His grandmother's house that she lived in Connecticut Lorraine Warren actually went to that house and told them that in no way, shape, or form should they be living in that house. It was that bad. I don't know if they actually ever moved or if they stayed there, but that's kind of where the paranormal activity began with him. So he had been already pre-exposed to that as a young child. So there was a lot of things that happened in this house, and I've pretty much stayed in contact with this family, and things have calmed down a lot. But there is still some activity there, and there are things that are covered up in this house that I think a lot of the activity came from.
Now, I'm going to go into some of the other chapters, but I'd like to bring into the room Elvin Potter with us. Elvin, thank you for joining us here.
I guess.
Yep. So, Elvin, tell us a little something about yourself. I know Shawna couldn't be here with us tonight, so my intro lied a little bit. But tell us a little about you. How long you? I thought I looked up this morning. Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't it 2016?
2016, we've been investigating together. Yeah. First place we ever met, Postown Elementary. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that was actually my first ever investigation as well. So,
And he likes Pottstown because he lives like 15 minutes away from Pottstown. So
less
the rest
than
of us have to travel. Yeah, less than that. Yeah.
yeah.
So, well, okay, that's actually a good segue into Pottstown. Jen, why don't you tell us a little about what you wrote about with Pottstown and some of the experiences there, and then we'll chime in on some of the things that have happened.
So there's a lot of things that's taken place at Pottstown, and one of the things that I'm going to talk about, and there's somebody in our chat that knows about this too. So a few years ago, Steve and I had a reporter with us, and we were walking through the school, and we were doing like a little investigation. There was no tools involved, no lights, no cameras, no nothing. I mean, we had flashlights, but none of the bells and whistles. And on the second floor, when we were getting ready to leave, at the end of the hallway, I saw this little girl in a white dress. And I didn't say anything to the reporter. I just said, "Hey, do you see anything down there at the end of the hallway?" And she described exactly what I was seeing. And I had forgotten about this little girl, didn't give it a second thought as to about her any other time that we would go and investigate. So COVID hit. And then after COVID, when everybody was allowed to go and start living their life basically a little bit, during one of my meditations, she suddenly started showing up. And I always have a sacred space where I bring spirits and, invite them into where I'm at. It's kind of like my little safe zone. And the little girl would not come into this room at all. She would not come into this space. So I thought that was kind of odd. Like no matter where I went, she wouldn't enter. So we go to this investigation, and I let everybody know, hey, this little girl, might show up again. And I explained to them what had been happening. And so I went through and I had been taking pictures of all the different rooms and the areas. And I got to the kitchen, and the camera would just shut off. I would turn it back on, and it would shut off. So later that night, the guys were in the dry goods room down, I think you guys call it the dry goods room. They were in this room, and they heard a little girl scream or a scream. And I will let the guys take it from there because they were there.
Let me play you the scream first. And it's a little hard to hear, so you have to listen carefully. I had to edit out what we said afterwards because I want to keep this as, the perfect language show. So it's really hard to hear. I was going back to explain over what we had heard.
That sound doesn't know justice as to what we actually heard.
Mm-hmm.
There was 4 of us down there in the dry goods room. And we were all sitting there doing what we're doing, holding an EVP session, and it was dark. real dark. And if you've ever been to Postown, you know how dark that room is anyway. But we had the door shut, and literally outside the door, you could hear. It was a little girl, no doubt about it, screaming. It was loud as can be. That sound clip did it no justice whatsoever. We all got up, ran to the door, looked around, looking for somebody. I'm sure there was a few choice words that came out with that, which he said he had to edit, but it definitely sounded like she was outside the hallway or literally in the room with us itself. It was that loud.
See, it wasn't something, we weren't there when we heard that. It was later in the evening. So it wasn't like there were people out in the parking lot
Yeah.
that we could hear that. That's number one. Number two, the room has no windows, just one door.
Yeah.
And where we heard it was right outside the door. Actually, we heard a little girl scream. I mean, a chilling scream. I mean, I might even have had the wrong audio there. You know, I was trying to rush this morning to find some of it. But it was loud as could be. And I remember we almost fell over each other
Yeah.
trying to open the door to get out of the room because we wanted to make sure that, you know, first off, it sounded like it was right there.
Yeah.
So we wanted to see if there was someone there. And of course, Elvin went in one direction. I went in the other direction just to see if there was anyone there. The girls, like you said, were on the other side of the building when we contacted them. So that little child was definitely there that day.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then, I mean, there are a lot of other things that we've all experienced while we were there. Elvin, I know you've seen shadows in the hallway in that where the doll area is, the doll room, and down the hallway and everything.
yeah.
I know you've had some amazing experiences with all of that. And then seeing the, and those punching bags just starting to move on their own.
Move by themselves.
Yeah. So, I mean, what is your favorite experience or most remembered experience that you've had from there?
I can't all remember who was with us at the time, but I know me and Steve was sitting. We were in the special needs room. Well, I can't even say it was my best experience there, but this is the one that sticks out more than anything. Is just we were sitting there talking to each other across the table, and something black was literally in between us, and we couldn't see each other. And it wasn't a big desk, not at all. It's a little kid's desk, some sort. You couldn't see anything. I mean, we're 2 foot away from each other and couldn't see each other. And yeah, it's dark in there, but it's not that dark. You literally couldn't see anything whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then, you know, without a doubt, my first ever investigation there, the most memorial experience for me was definitely the principal's office. As I was walking into the principal's office, I felt a little girl grab my hand. I know it was a little girl. I felt it with every sense of me that I have. Grabbed my hand. Either she wanted help or she was trying to lead me somewhere or something. It made me pretty emotional at the time. Again, it was my first investigation, and for somebody to reach out and grab my hand knowing there's nobody there, that sold me.
Right.
That sold me fast.
Now,
That
I
hallway
know
we
that-
saw, I was just going to say, that hallway is where we saw the guy with the Mexican hat.
Yes, the exact
Actually
same.
walked
Yeah.
past the principal's office door.
mm-hmm. Now, this is also the place that we first used the Phasma box.
Yes.
And that, I mean, other than the place in Tennessee, I think this is probably the most active that Phasma box has been.
Yeah.
The
So,
Phasma box actually, now, for those that are wondering what we're talking about, a Phasma box, I actually do have a picture of what the Phasma box looks like. And I'm going to share my screen here a second. Oops. That doesn't go right to it. See, that's the Phasma box. And what it is, it's a program that goes on either an iPad or a laptop. And it can work off of the internet, but we turn that off. You know, we turn off airwaves. So to this day, I'm not really 100% sure where that's coming from, the voices that we get in that. But we've gotten some amazing voices, like this one for Elvin.
Elvin.
There you go.
I mean,
Yep.
you know, clear
Elvin
as day.
called out a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's be real. Okay, we all know about the obelisks and stuff, and they have a dictionary inside them. This doesn't have a dictionary, number one, and number two, for it to say the name Elvin, just like blows your mind a little bit. And then actually, we got even in the dry goods room, we got this one.
Jen.
There you go. I think I like
It actually,
Jen.
There you
see, it actually says, "Are you Jen?" So I mean, it actually can pick up a lot. But that first time that we used it there, now Jen also talked about Chris Sutton, you know, the shaman that was there. Elvin, you and I were sitting inside the teachers' lounge,
Teacher's lounge. Yep.
right? And that thing said what? Do you remember?
Hey, Jen.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Shawna and I were in the principal's office. We were 2 rooms away, and I heard that completely clear as day. And it wasn't long after Chris had passed. Chris was actually making his rounds to communicate with many of us, and at various times he knew I investigated, and so he saw that opportunity, and he took that opportunity to let me know that he is around. And he did that with several other people too. So
Well, it's amazing because when that happened, we instantaneously, or if you remember, Elvin and I instantaneously said, "That's great."
Yeah. You did.
Yeah, because I knew the voice, whereas I had never met him. I had actually heard his voice. I mean, I probably waved to him at one of your class sessions you were having with him and said hello, but I recognized hearing the voice and knew right away it was him. Now, tell us a little more about the Phasma box, Elvin.
Well, you know as much as I do, but I do know that we've had some of the best, the absolute best responses to questions and stuff that we've asked this thing with anything we've ever used. It's kind of scary at times how dead on it is. We'll ask how many people's in the room. It'll literally tell us how many people's in the room. Questions to stuff. It'll answer. We don't really, I don't know, can you really say exactly where this information is coming from? I don't know. All I know is that we have had wonderful, wonderful personal experiences with this box, no matter where we've been. And this was definitely the first night we ever used it. And we were all, I think, in awe as to how accurate this thing was and how much it spoke to us that night.
mm-hmm.
And that doesn't even do justice for the following days after that.
Oh no, I was going to say that stuff continued.
Yeah.
We all had experiences. So after Steve and I left this investigation, we were heading to the airport because we were going to Florida for vacation. And when we got there, we hadn't slept yet. So all we really wanted to do was sleep. And that night, and of course, if anybody who knows me, if once I'm asleep, if you wake me up, I'm going to fall back asleep. Like you're not going to keep me up. And so that night, there was actually, we had this little, it's like a little alarm that you can put on your door. So if somebody tries to get in your place, the alarm will go off. And this actually happened. Steve got up and there was nobody in the house, nobody outside the door. There was nobody anywhere. And I'm going to let him finish telling it because he knows what he did more than I know what he did.
Well, I got up from the bed because it's a little handle alarm. It looks like a lock that you place over a door handle. So if anyone, like if you're in a hotel, someone tries to wiggle your door to see if it's open, this alarm will go off. And the alarm went off. And I got up and ran into the other room. Here I was thinking I was home and I had a gun in my hand, but there was no gun in my hand, but ran into the other room and there was nobody there. anywhere. I mean, I searched, and it was wet. It was like damp outside. There were no footprints or anything outside, so nobody was walking around anywhere. It just went off on its own. So I shut the thing off and took it off the doorknob because it was freaked us out a little bit, and then tried to go back to sleep. So I go back to sleep. Now I'm going to let Jen pick it back up again.
So I saw some people, as I like to call them. You'll find out and realize that I call all spirits people. That's just what they are to me. And they were in the room that night. I woke up, I saw them at the foot of the bed, and then that was it. I went back out. So take it from Steve.
Well, she sees them at the foot of the bed. What she's leaving out is the fact that I had turned around in the bed. It was so warm in there. My head was down at the foot of the bed. So my head was right down where they were. And I woke up during the night and I felt like something had grabbed my shoulders and was trying to push me over. The only thing I can describe it as is I felt like something was trying to push me over a cliff. And my legs were flailing up and down in the air, trying to keep my balance so I'd stay on the bed. I had absolutely no idea what was happening. I know I woke up and I was completely freaked out. But then it was the next morning that I started telling Jen what happened, and she says, "Oh yeah, I saw two guys standing by the edge of the bed during the night." And I was like, "And you didn't wake me up?" She goes, "Nah, I went back to sleep."
That's the way it always goes. I see something and I go back to sleep.
So we get up, and I'm thinking, well, gee, I got to let Elvin know this when we get up. And Elvin, tell what happened to you on the way to work.
I'm on my way to work. It's 4:30 in the morning. Driving the same path that I've been through thousands of times to head to work. And I come over this overpass. I'm coming over this overpass. Anybody that knows Middletown, Ohio knows what the old Target and the overpass is. So as I'm driving down the street, something walks in front of me, big black shadow, and it was so vivid. I hit it with my truck. I thought I hit and killed somebody. I called my wife, Shawna, another investigator with us as well. And then I text Steve, like, you're not even going to believe what just happened. Now, of course, he didn't respond right away. I'm sure he was hours later. But Shawna picked up the phone, like, are you kidding me? I was like, no. Like, it definitely freaked me out. Neat experience, don't get me wrong, but freaked me out. I mean, when you thought you hit somebody, and then you start playing things back in your head, there's nobody there. I seen a black shadow walk literally in front of the truck, and I hit it. Well, it was just a very weird experience. And again, this was the first day after using the Phasma box at post time.
Now, if you remember, even the next day, you were mowing when you had problems starting to happen. Yeah. He was using his, like a Walkman or a podcast, MP3 player or something.
Little Bluetooth headphones that we use for all kinds of good stuff, and wouldn't connect, wouldn't play. It never has that problem. Never.
So the question remains, and actually we may end up at one point finding one or two investigators from even another group, having a whole bunch of us in here, to go over what the heck this Phasma box is. I mean, let's do this. Let's go to the next investigation that we did right after that, which is the Old South Pittsburgh Hospital in Tennessee.
Where you have a great nickname.
Yeah, he does.
Jen, I'm going to let you start to tell us about the hospital.
Actually, I think what would be really interesting is to hear what Elvin's first thought is of the hospital, because I know he was walking around and had some cool things that he spotted.
Well, it's right off the bat, before, honest to God, in Old South Pittsburgh, before I ever even walked in the building, I was seeing shadows and seeing people, and it was pretty wild because I've seen things, but Jen sees things. Okay. To me, I'm like, what the hell is this? But, I'm walking to the hospital, and the ladies that we just met, I can't even remember the names, very nice ladies. She starts telling us, she really didn't like to go on I believe it's the third floor, but the old operating room, may have been the second floor. We're walking around. Before we even start going upstairs, I see a shadow down to the right, down the hallway. Yeah, and well, I forgot about the pictures. That's the best part.
That's what I was hoping you would talk about, because that happened outside before we ever stepped foot inside the building.
That was me taking pictures, just random pictures, which we take at every investigation we go to. Mm-hmm. And of course, you can see it staring back at us. I'm pretty sure that is the actual area to where, well, we got cussed at as soon as we did the initial walkthrough. Walking around with a lady, and all I hear is, F you. What? What was that? She was like, you heard that too? Yeah, how can you not hear that? And she said, well, that's kind of why I don't like coming up here by myself. Or she won't come up here by herself, is what she said. Mm-hmm. Just an awesome place. But yeah, the pictures, I don't know how I forgot those, because
yeah, that kind of set the tone for the night.
Yeah.
And one of the ladies hadn't been there for a while, but she has a very strong connection with the little boy who's there. And Shawna and I, and just so you know, Shawna is like, I call her, I say she's my Shawna. Elvin can have her during the week, but on investigations, she's all mine, because Shawna is like Elvin and Steve are there for each other. That's how Shawna and I are. Shawna knows when I need to leave a room. She knows what I need without even me saying anything. I mean, I know that I don't have to worry about anything. If I'm in trouble, she can just take a look at my face and know what's going on. So Shawna and I are in this room with this lady, and she has a ball in her hand, and her hand is flat. The ball is sitting in her hand, and she's like, knock the ball off, asking the little spirit to knock the ball off, or the little boy. And she says, knock it over to Jen. Now, we haven't said at this point what our names are. Shawna's standing on one spot, I'm standing in another, and the ball starts to rock back and forth. Now, mind you, her hand's not even pointed in my direction. It's kind of like this, but not in my direction. And so the ball's moving back and forth, and the next thing you know, the ball shoots off to where my feet are. It was the coolest thing ever. She actually calls him Buddy. And that wouldn't be the only experience we had on that floor. Because Elvin has something to share about some equipment from that floor.
I can definitely not forget this either. Place was so huge, we set up, most of the cameras we had, but we also had a couple trail cams. So you ever been to a hospital, they have the rails on the side of most of the hallways going down. We set up a trail cam going down toward it was actually, I believe, the west side of the building, which Shawna and Jen were way down the hallway at that time investigating. Me and Steve was kind of sitting in this little lobby area they had sitting up there. And, we're just sitting there. I don't even think we were doing a Phasma box session at the time. We were just maybe doing an EVP session, maybe just chilling, filling out the room a little bit. But, kicked this ball down the hallway, and this ball, literally the angle this place is, goes all the way down the hallway and just kind of makes a left and goes into a room. And we're both looking at each other like, how the hell did that happen? So we kind of let that go. So we just sat back down. We were investigating a little bit more, and we hear Shawna and Jen down there talking like, hey, you just see that? Like, well, no. Well, it wasn't seconds after they said that. Something came down the hallway, and I say something because don't know what it was. The trail cam comes flying off the rail. When I say flying off the rail, I'm not saying it just fell on the floor. I'm saying this thing was 6 to 8 feet away from the rail down the hallway toward them. And that is absolute no exaggeration. So, me and Steve just, wow, did you guys see that? As we see a shadow pass in the same time period. And we were yelling back and forth to them, did you see that? Did you see that? We all got a little excited about that. But again, when I say it didn't just fall from the rail, it was thrown from the rail. There's no doubt in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting place.
Not only that, we actually heard somebody run
You hear it.
right down to us and then right back again. I mean, it was actually in a matter of, when we say from where they were to we were, this thing ran within like a second to us and then a second back down to them. Because they literally said to us, did you hear run down the hallway? I said, yeah, they were right here. And they're like, no, they were down here. So it was something that was very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, Jen, you were also towards the end of the night when Elvin and I were wrapping up all of the equipment, had experienced as well when you were just sitting there by the nurse's station.
Oh yeah, when the guys were taking all the equipment out, there was actually a wheelchair that was sitting by the counter, and all of a sudden it started rolling all by itself. And it's like, really, you wait until we're packing up and ready to go, and you decide to start moving this. So that was really interesting to see. But it just goes to show that, it doesn't matter if you have equipment ready or not. They're going to start doing things, whether it's at the beginning or whether it's at the end. One of the things that we always try to do is have a recorder that's going when we first walk into the buildings, because you would be surprised at what you pick up just from walking into a building. Just like Elvin caught the picture, walking around taking pictures of things. They were already looking out to see who was coming. And a lot of times the spirits know before we even get there that we're coming, because a lot of crazy things happen. Like our GPS will suddenly decide, hey, nope, you're going this way, taking us completely away from a location, whether it's a public investigation, whether it's a private investigation. We always end up going the wrong way. And then we have to
So after Saturday night, I actually questioned GPS systems in general. we left an investigation at the Center Church that was in Portland, Indiana, and we were going down, and there was a bridge that was closed, and we knew it because Jen and I had hit this bridge, the detour around the bridge when we were going. So I made the left at the street before it to go up like I did a few blocks, make the turn, and go around it. Needless to say, an hour and a half later, it was still trying to take me back to that same spot instead of the road that I was supposed to be on. No call, it's not my programming. It was actually on there and just took me off to that direction. And I mean, literally, Elvin got home before us. We were still on the road. Actually, we started using our cell phones at that point to go home. But it actually was Old South Pittsburgh, between the doctor's hallway there. The doctor was cussing at us, and a few other places was actually very interesting. But how we got into this was the Phasma box. This was the second use of the Phasma box, if you remember. And the Phasma box, who said everyone else's name at Popestown, except mine, had my number at this place.
He had a special name, which we can't say on the air.
Yeah.
Yes, but we can't say on the air, okay, because I've never been
Let's
cussed out
just say,
by
let's just say,
spirit,
think
but
of
I
the word,
guess-
hey, kitty, kitty.
Yeah.
He made a friend.
Yes, I was known as Cat Steve, okay? for that one, I will just leave it at that. And but that box, I mean, I've heard my mom come through on the box. Okay, I think Elvin, you heard
Very
your
recently.
mom very recently come through on the box. We were at an investigation somewhere in Versailles, Indiana, at a private home. And we were trying to kill a little bit of time and we put the box on, the Phasma box. And within 30 seconds, the people that lived there, their son who had passed away, came through on the Phasma box in his voice and everything else. And they started crying, and Elvin and I sit across the table looking at each other like, oh, come on. Now what? Okay. But I don't know what that Phasma box is. And people can say what they want, but I know even in Poachtown, Daryl had told me, Daryl Wisman, who the caretaker of the place, said one of the nights after we left, a group was using a Phasma box, and it kept saying, "Where's Daryl? Where's Daryl?" half the night. So I don't know. Is that opening a portal? We tried to experiment where we tried to open 2 Phasma boxes just this past weekend. But it's amazing because the answers are not that far apart from each other. And that's what I was interested in. Heck, we were in a place, the 4 of us investigated Indiana State Sanatorium. And Elvin and I had the box and actually invited it to sit down with us at the table. I was tired and said, I'm going to try something completely unusual. And we had a REM pod at the table, and the REM pod went off when it sat there. And I started very calmly, started asking a number of questions to it, and it was answering us straight. It would not answer us where these voices were coming from, which I thought was very interesting. So I want to move on, if I may. I'm going to start with the old jail. Jen, do you want to take us through the old jail?
Sure. We've investigated the Hartford City Jail several times, and we've had a lot of things happen. We've picked up a little girl's voice on every recorder in every room. And the very first time that I investigated there, it was really hot, and I was connecting to the jailer who had died from a heart attack. And the pressure was so strong that I would have rather gone out in the hallway where it was about 100 degrees rather than be in the area where it was air conditioned. After Dan said that how the jailer had passed, that feeling went away and I was fine after that. The night before, Steve had seen a man in an orange jumpsuit in our kitchen and in the bathroom and throughout the house. And the next day, I woke up with 2 bruises on my arms. And it wasn't because Steve was deciding that he was going to do whatever. And it wasn't, it was in areas where I wouldn't have been able to put enough pressure to make these bruises. Like they were like right in here type of thing. And I mean, to put that kind of pressure, I would have had to do a lot. And I mean, they were perfectly aligned with each other, which I found really odd. And I didn't know that he had seen them until after I discovered the bruises. And then he was telling me about this person. And then all the other things took place that night at the jail. Now, I know that Elvin has had some experiences there too. Just like, I mean, we've all witnessed a hat being thrown. Well, we didn't witness it, but it was on the banister and we came back through when the hat was on the floor. But we did all experience the upstairs bedroom smelling like a woman's perfume, and there is no women that stay in this house, like this jail. There's a jail side, and then there's the jailer's family side where they lived, and nobody lives in this anymore. There's just somebody that oversees it, comes in when people are investigating, that kind of thing. And so we all smelled this perfume for a while, and then when we went back downstairs to the jail area to investigate, we actually saw on the camera, we didn't see it there, but when we watched the camera back, there was actually a woman that came up and out of the floor, out of the wall, whatever it was, and then walked through and then out again. Yep. So that was really interesting. So Elvin, I know you and Steve had an experience with a really tall shadow.
Um,
It was
That
like
was when we were sitting in
tall
the
or
living
whatever.
room. If you remember, we were sitting on a break in the living room looking out the window.
oh yeah.
Okay.
Living room, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, the windows in this building are very tall off the ground. They're probably, I don't know, I would say at least 6 feet off of the ground from the outside of the way the jail sits. Um, Me and Steve sitting there, we're just talking, and we see a shadow pass this window. And this thing was so tall, it was almost to the top of the window passing through. This thing had to be 9 foot tall. I mean, and I'm not small by any means. I'm 6'3", and I seen this thing, and it was pretty intimidating. Steve seen it too, and it, this thing was just massive. And
It
for both of us
flipped
to look at
itself.
each other and see it at the same time, and we
Mhm.
both just looked at each other. You see that? You see that? Yeah.
Well, and like he's saying, the strange part is, you look out the window, it's at least 13 feet off the ground.
Yeah, you can't touch.
Yeah,
There's no
there's
way
no
you can
way.
touch
And we saw the head just like go right by the window. So I still, to this very moment, have no clue what that was.
the ground.
The only thing I do know is at one time there used to be a door there. And it's very possible that someone was still passing by the door back from the old days. So I actually have some videos which are uploading right now. So when I disappear, keep talking about the jail
No.
and the things that you found, and I'll be back with you.
So one of the other things that we experienced at the jail was, again, we were watching back the video, and we kept seeing almost, and we wanted to make sure that it wasn't our cameras. So we did have those checked out by somebody else. We had the footage checked out by somebody else too, where it was almost like there was a portal that opened, and there was nothing but spirit after spirit after spirit after spirit that was coming through. Now, this was the same night that we had the experience with the woman's perfume. There's all, and then I mean, there's other things like we were all sitting in the living room, and it looks like there's somebody that's flipped up a scarf and flipped it over to the side. I mean, there's just a number of different things, and you guys have had a lot of great experiences in the jail itself.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
In some of the cells, hearing people walking and just a number of different things at this
Yeah.
location.
Just our last investigation itself, we set up a couple of the cat balls, one to
Yeah.
the hallway, one in the middle, and they were kind of going off on command.
Yeah.
Like we would say something, hey, set that ball out for us, and it would.
Yeah.
Move that, and it would. I mean, it was pretty wild.
Yeah.
And a lot of the REM pods were going off at the same time. I mean, going hand in hand with these balls. I mean, it was definitely, we always have decent investigations there. I mean, I can't say we've never really been disappointed.
Right.
That's one of the few places that every time we investigate, there's something
Something.
that happens there. There's something. I mean, there's plenty of audio we get. I want to show you one of the things. Everyone was accounted for in this one. We actually were all sitting in the living room, and this is a stairwell. And I want you to watch the video because we had a camera that was right at the bottom of the stairwell. So, and we also knew where the cats were. So this wasn't either of his cats. Now, I will say we were hearing noises in the hallway during the time that was happening. Now, I do got the video that you were talking about of the catwalk, where you'll see this woman come out, looks like almost out of the floor and walking through the wall.
What's funny to me about that video right there is that's actually where I set up one of the cat balls, almost dead center spot. And look how much that thing was going off. Just so maybe there is a portal there.
Well, and also this is from the kitchen
Yep.
as well. This was the same night that we caught that in the hallway. I mean, it goes on for approximately a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and then you don't see it ever again. And that's the only time during the entire investigation that happened. So we do also have a couple of audio clips from that place as well. One of the first times we were there, if anyone's never been to the jail, we were on our way up to the ladies' ward, the ladies' jail cells. And of course, I was joking around, and you'll hear me say something about, we're coming up, and listen to the EVP we picked up.
We're coming up. There's 3 men. Contain yourself.
I mean, it actually says hire Steve Hodgson, right there. And then we got in the upstairs lady cell, they actually called Jenn's name too. You have to listen. It's one of those things you have to listen close. I'll play it again. You'll hear it say Jenn Hodgson. So my feelings is that whatever's there in that place is an intelligent haunting. There's no question about it, because it knows first and last names, and there's no way it would know first and last names. And as Elvin said, we've sat in cells and heard somebody moving around like in the catwalk, right next to us, and there's nobody in the catwalk. The girls are somewhere else, and we're sitting in a cell, and yet we can still hear stuff going on in the catwalk. Mm-hmm. So that's a very highly active place. Now, I don't have pictures, so we're going to go into Waverly Hills. Boy, it's a place that seems that everybody knows more about. So I'm going to back out of this one. Jenn, you want to start telling them about Waverly Hills?
Sure. So we finally were able to get an investigation booked. Luckily, it was a very nice warm day. It was in March, and we went to investigate this place. And as we were being shown around, and boy, do they take forever to show you around. But anyhow, as we were being shown around, I kept smelling this sweet, sickly smell. And I didn't think anything of it. I thought everybody in the group could smell the same thing. And when we got back, done with the tour, we had investigated a little bit and we were ready to take a break. I asked the owner and our guide about this. And they said that was not something that they had ever experienced. The one lady had been a tour guide there for 6 years. She had never experienced that before, and the owner had never experienced that before. And so they said that was just something that was meant for me and me only. So as we go on throughout the night, we're going to the death tunnel, and we had to go outside to go across because they had some of it, blocked off to kind of keep the heat in and stuff. And we're walking in the door, and the guide actually experienced what I had been experiencing all night. She finally smelled what I was smelling, which was interesting. Now, I'd asked one of our other investigators about this, and what she said, which makes total sense, because in the room that I smelled it was where they used to keep medication. And one of our supplies or whatever it had to be for the facility. Now, they always kept this room locked. And there was one patient who always would follow the nurses around and everything else. And that one of the nurses there said to lock the patient in this room. And they did. They locked her in there, and they forgot about it for 3 days. The woman died in this room. And so my friend, Robin, who's also one of our investigators, said, it very well could have been her because, just like on a keto diet, they have this sweet smell when they start to lose all of their weight or however that works. And so that was the only explanation that we could find that was about this. Now, Elvin, I know you had an experience, I think in that same room, but it wasn't the sweet smell. You actually smelled something different.
Sulfur.
Yeah.
And it was not in the exact same room, but it was literally right next to it. There was a giant throne that sat like right in the entrance,
Mm-hmm.
and it smelled like it was so bad. And you can only smell it at certain times, but it was literally like sulfur.
Right.
And it was one of the most ungodly stenches I've ever smelled in my life.
And what did they tell us when something like that would happen?
I don't remember what she said exactly, but I mean, I know personal experiences that usually it means you get some negative energy coming out.
Right.
So.
Right. I know there were some things that she said that if certain experiences happened, I thought it was with the sulfur. If you start to smell that, to leave that area, because that meant that whatever air was coming in.
I mean, I can back up the sulfur smell because I remember it right around that throne because we were looking around to see where it was coming from to make sure it wasn't coming from some other source. And it definitely was coming. It was really bad, putrid.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was an interesting experience, It's one of those places that you really want to have a lot more time that you do.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, no joke. When they say it's like 2 hours for a walkthrough, it's 2 hours. And when they say your 8 hours is up, you're done. It really is 8 hours, and you're done. So that's a place that you could go back to and experience again and again and again if you can get a date to investigate.
Anyway, all you got to do is stay on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Instead of kissing your wife Happy New Year, you can just be sitting there by the computer waiting to hit that button because that button is so important to hit. And you could maybe get an investigation somewhere like around May, like on a Friday night if you're lucky. Okay, so, but I know right now, just to interrupt you, right now there is a debate of ownership going on of the place. So until the actual people that legitimately own the place get back, I'd say stand by the sidelines right now and let the historical society, move away like they're supposed to.
Absolutely. So I know another place that we investigated that was really cool, and that's in Edinburgh.
Oh man.
Yeah. That was an awesome place.
Yes.
So one of the
Edinburgh, Iowa.
Yes, it was awesome. So Shawna and I and another investigator went across the street from this place because there's actually a graveyard that is connected to this building. And so we were looking at all of the gravestones and the headstones, and I was taking pictures, and I was like, hey, we're investigating across the street. If you want to come and hang out with us, that would be really awesome. Well, little did I know when I got back, Elvin would have an experience that connected to something that I had taken a picture of.
Yes.
So, Elvin, you want to take it from there?
Well, we were using I want to say we were using either the spirit box or the obelisk. Either way, the name and just smacked us all in the face. Period. I'd already had a couple dreams about the place the night before anyway, so where I was standing was kind of tied in with that. They kept literally right in the entrance. The break room was still left. I was standing in the entrance of the manor. The girls come walking back in from the cemetery. I said, hey, we kept picking up this name, man. Jen breaks out her camera, shows me this headstone with the name Ann on it.
Yeah. It was really cool. It was really cool to have that validation that spirit was there with us at that time. So that was an interesting little place to investigate, and a place I hope we can go back to.
Oh. And the pizza place down the street was amazing. You got to throw that
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And we had an amazing investigation that night too.
Yes.
I mean, there was so much that happened in so many places. I mean, we kept hearing, if I remember correctly, so that people understand when we're inside of a big building, we always want to make sure that it's just us there and no one's sneaking into the building for safety reasons, as well as paranormal reasons. But we put up motion detectors all over the building. And they kept setting off the motion detector down that one hallway.
Going nuts.
I mean, constantly. And we'd go sit there and it would stop.
Second floor hallway ladies ward.
Yes, exactly. That's right. And the moment we'd walk away or move away, it would start up all over again. So something either wanted our attention or wanted to draw our attention away from where we were at that time. I remember that. That was actually a really cool place.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So before we run out of time, there is one more place I do want to talk about, and it's Randolph County Infirmary. So go ahead, Jen, tell us about Randolph County Infirmary.
Well, what's not to share about Randolph County? There's so many different things that has happened at that place. The one thing that really stands out that I know that we've all experienced, well, there's a couple of things that we've all experienced. One of the things that we experienced was hearing something metal being thrown. We were all on a different floor, like the second floor, first floor. I don't know what floor we were on, but I know down in the basement is where the sound came from. It was like somebody had taken something large and metal and just thrown it. Yep. We went and looked. We couldn't find anything at all. Another thing that took place there was the guys were on one level and I was on, like they would be on the middle floor and I was on the third floor or in the basement, wherever it was. And they would have an experience and I would have the same experience at the exact same time. And then we would reverse the areas and the same thing happened. It was really weird, but they've had some experiences where with the cook, I guess you could call her.
Oh.
That was there. And in one of the rooms down in the basement, there is the Masonic symbol. And from what I'm told, now I don't know the history. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but there's like a doorway, but it was kind of sealed off. And so I'm standing there and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm not supposed to be in here, but too bad I'm in here anyways. And I heard a man clearing his voice out in the hallway as if to ask, what are you doing in here? Because, Masonic lodges, they don't really like women to be in their space, but I was there.
Elvin, tell a little about the basement, because the basement in that place is really a wonderful place to investigate.
Yeah, well, I'm going to start with the kitchen area, and then we'll move down to the hallways.
Okay. Because I have a picture too when you get there.
Okay. There was a time where me and Steve was there. There's a round table that sits in the room directly next to it. I'm going to guess maybe it was possibly a cafeteria at that point.
Mm-hmm.
We were sitting down talking, and there's paperwork and stuff all over the desk out there letting you know a little bit of information about this lady that named Doris that used to be the cook for everybody there. So, of course, they gave us a name to go by. Well, let's reach out to her. So we're sitting down. We're having an EVP session. Well, we did need recorders for this one. We said, "Hey, Doris, how you doing? Are you there?" And loud as can be, an old lady's raspy voice came through. Yep.
What do you want?
Yeah. And then she spoke a couple times.
Yeah.
But
I mean, loud and clear as day.
Yeah,
there was no question whatsoever.
Very assertive. You can tell she was she had a mean streak in life.
Yes.
Not that she's a mean person, but she definitely had a personality on her.
I'm not even sure we were completely set up. I think we were undoing the cameras at the point where you yelled that down that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And which is why we don't have it on audio yet. We had just gotten down there to actually set up cameras and recorders when it happened. But me, you, and the other investigator that was there heard it clear as day.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost like she yelled back, "Yeah, what do you want?"
Yeah.
And all I kept thinking of was Doris, yeah, my ex-wife. Okay, yep. But I didn't kill her, so okay. But talk to us about, if you remember, the three of us were me, you, and the other investigator, all were sitting in that hallway down the basement.
Yes.
When you were sitting probably about 5 to 7 feet in front of us, and talk to us about what happened.
Same hallway right off of the cafeteria area. It's a pretty dark hallway. It gets very dark down there. We were kind of spread out throughout the hallway, and I just kept, looking to my left. I'm just like, man, I keep seeing something move. Just keeping something move. So, picked up my camera, took a couple pictures. Well, we caught a shadow there.
See, this is the photo that he had. I'm going to see if I can take it. You can actually see. I'm not sure if that's even a shadow. That might just be the stairwell. But there's actually a shadow standing there that wasn't in the other ones. And the reason I point that out, at one point I'll learn about stop sharing here. The reason I point that out is because at the same time that was taking place, we couldn't see you.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking 5, 6 feet in front of us. All of a sudden, I could not see Elvin anymore. It got pitch black. I mean, I couldn't even, if I put my hand up, I couldn't even see my hand at that point. It was ice cold. We had some nasty chills that were going on at the time. And then all of a sudden, poof, like that, it was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, that was the night that the same time you guys had that happen, I was on the floor above you and had the same stuff going on there. That's when you guys were having the, feeling things, seeing things, hearing things, and it was happening at the same time there.
Right. That place has never disappointed us also. That's one of those places, no matter where we go, we can sit in a hallway and you can start to hear stuff materialize.
Yep.
Sometimes you can hear stuff in the hallway next to you.
And
you go right.
Almost materialized.
Right, exactly.
Almost.
Yeah, almost. A couple of times, yes, it's been almost. And the last time we were there, we actually slept there. But I guess we watched too much Destination Fear or something and decided that we actually were going to try sleeping at the location, which it was so hot that we ended up sleeping in the break room because that was the only room with air conditioning that the building had. But, that building takes on, you can walk through it during the day, you can feel stuff in it.
Yeah.
But it's okay. But when daylight starts to go down and it starts to get dark, it gets dark. I mean, it goes from okay to, oh my God, you're walking through some pitch black hallways.
Yeah.
And stuff starts to happen in every room.
Place takes on a completely new feel.
Yes. So, what else did you write about in your book, Jen, about Randolph County?
I wrote about the unmarked graves.
Well, explain that to people so they understand what what we're talking about with the unmarked graves.
So at Randolph County, it was used for a number of different things. Like they did everything there, and there was unmarked graves on the property. Of course, one person said it was in one location, but I kept being drawn to another location by the trees, and that's actually where it is. There is no names of the people who were there, but it just has a really interesting energy to it. And when we were there the last time, Shawna and I was out there, and we had dowsing rods with us. And I would ask, because I guess I should explain the dowsing rods. So when I use dowsing rods, they don't necessarily find water. I'm sure they would if I asked them to find water. But the way that I use my dowsing rods is I ask them to find a spirit or to point to a person who's living or which direction I need to go. So as I'm holding the rods, I'm asking that question, do I need to turn right, left, whatever. And so every single time it would turn me into a pattern in this square area of where the unmarked grave is, which was quite fascinating. But I mean, there's been a lot of things that's happened. And then Shawna and I, we were investigating on one of the floors, and we were standing in one of the rooms, and we asked that a door slam or something. We asked them to do something. Well, a door slammed. Like, it slammed really loud. Like, we went and we were trying to figure out and make sure that none of our group had slammed a door, shut a door, or anything else, and nobody had. We have no idea what door was shut, or even if it was physically shut or not just, making the loud sound from whatever. Almost like the metal being thrown. Like, we have no idea where it came from. And this was the same thing. And we've both had our necklaces turn. Like, literally, they would just sit there and move our necklaces. And then we've also had the experience of the lights just lighting up on their own. We would ask a question and it would light up. We have, I don't even know, whatever tracker it's called. I'm not very good with knowing the names of equipment. I
think you guys had the periscope at that time.
I don't know what we had. We just had some kind of equipment that lit up and it did whatever it was supposed to do. That's the reason why Elvin's the equipment manager.
Well, it's funny what you were talking about, the slamming door. If anyone had seen Paranormal Lockdown, which their first season was there, the first episode was at Randolph County. It was the same thing. And we found that slam was actually the refrigerator door. The same way it had been slammed shut. And that door doesn't move. That's
you got
that door weighs about, it weighs about 150 pounds. And it doesn't just swing. I mean, you have to put your body into it to get the thing to move. And I remember we went off in like 3 or 4 different directions trying to find what that noise was. And there was no one in there, no one at all, and that slam happened. Now, one of the things I'd be remiss if I don't say, and I don't want people saying otherwise. We've talked about Randolph County tonight, the infirmary. We've talked about the old jail, and we've talked about Potsdam. For a matter of disclaimer, we actually do the website, or I actually do the website for those 3 locations. Now, are we talking about them because we do the websites for them? Absolutely 100% not. We're talking about them because we've investigated there a number of times and had amazing experiences happening. And there are so many other places we can go into, which we don't have time to tonight, but we can talk about Hannah House. We can talk about the trip in New York where we went to up by Niagara Falls there. Anybody can remember the names that can help me out of what those places were called there.
Wildwood Sanatorium.
Right. There we go. There's the other one. Right.
And the Hinsdale House.
Right. You said the Hinsdale. Right. And I mean, both of those we had fantastic activities from. And PPI, Professional Paranormal Investigations, we do travel a lot. We've done a lot of them here in Indiana and Ohio, and we do travel. We pick a place and go to, and actually, like we send in this thing, like Old South Pittsburgh, we'll be back. And we have some better equipment now, so we don't have to worry about running 300 feet of cord to a DVR because we have better cameras that we can just set up anywhere going to this electricity, and we might be able to cover a lot more that's there. So, Jen, well, let me do it this way. For professional paranormal investigations, they can look for us on Facebook, and you can also go to professionalparanormalinvestigations.com. I know it's a lot. I'll type that in when Jen starts talking about where people can find you if they want to get in touch with you.
Okay. So if anyone wants to get in touch with me, you can always go to my website, jennhodgson.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, same name. So yeah, I mean, I do readings, I teach, I do a lot of different things, but those are the best places to find me. I mean, if you really want to get in touch with me, just send me a message on Facebook, or even go to my website and send me a message. Keys to Magic is another website that I have. It's actually where I sell my crystals, and incense and all the other things that I do. But yeah, so if you're interested in a reading, that's where you go to. For that. And I do have to say, there is, Shell, I don't know if you're still on here or not, but there is someone that's wanting to connect with you, and there's someone that that has passed from something to do with the chest, whether it be a heart attack, emphysema, or something else, whatever that is, that's chest related. And there's also a connection to the age of 18 or the day of the month. So just wanted to pass that on to you.
If she is there, she will answer.
Yeah.
I know that they were at some ball game too at the time that they were listening to us as well.
Yeah.
So if not, they will hear that in the morning.
Yeah.
I'll make sure that they listen to that. So, but okay, guys, I want to thank you all for coming on our show tonight. It's funny when you go in certain camera views, it's either at the football game.
Football game.
Okay, but she didn't hear that. Right,
Carl's at the football game.
Carl, did she hear that?
No, this is Shell, Swagman. This is a different person for her.
Oh, okay, yeah, it was Carl. Okay, you're right. Okay. Yeah, they were at a football game. That's what he was saying. They were at a football game. So, but it's funny, every camera view I got to move around to make sure they're not. I know Carl's not. He's like me, and it's sort of like tied down to this. So it makes going to some of these places a little difficult. But I want to thank you guys for coming on the show tonight with us. I'm sure we're going to do this again in the future because there's many other places we can talk about. We won't even go into a book. We'll actually talk about some of the places we've investigated before. And yeah, he's on his leash like I am. Okay, it's there. You see it? And every once in a while when you see me disappear, it's because I have to like play with my nose or something, and I just want to get off camera to do it. So I don't want people to think I have a coke habit or something going on. But I want to thank Elvin. I want to thank you for being on tonight. So Shawna, I hope she feels better and
You too.
Yes.
be able to join us in the future. And Jen, I want to thank you for being part of our show tonight too. I remember the last site she didn't say was HodgsonBooks.com. And you could go to JennHodgson.com to get a book, or you could go to Hodgson Books, and it's got all the books and the links to actually purchase them is right there on Amazon. So we thank everybody for joining us tonight. If my memory is serving me correctly, next week we will have back on Travis Short. Okay, now we talked about the Mothman before. When Travis tells me we didn't even touch on a quarter of the stuff that's happened after the Mothman, after they filmed the documentary. Plus, he's also going to be bringing his cousin, who also worked on the documentary, who's never done an interview before. So this should be really, really interesting. But they'll be talking about the Mothman. So I invite you, if you didn't see the first one, go back and watch it and be sure to join us for this one. But once again, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. And again, hope to see you guys soon. Thanks.